Hey guys, Cam back here at the Battler Workshop and welcome. Well, this is a little bit of back to the future. I've already completed the repair work on that cable that I damaged on the DRO. So at the end of the day, I'm very happy with how that's come up. And I had to change a few things as I went along. I made some incorrect assumptions, but if you follow along, you'll see how it's come up and what we had to do to correct a few things. I don't know how you guys are finding postage at the moment, but I'm still waiting on this drag chain. I'm waiting for extension cables for those DRO cables, and they have been well over 4 or 5 weeks, and doesn't seem to be anything happening on the tracking. Can't get in contact with the company, or they're not returning calls, or they're not answering, so it's getting very frustrating. I'm just wondering if many of you guys who are waiting for stuff through eBay or from overseas are seeing the same issues as what I am. I'm sort of chafing at the bit to get this finished off, but really can't. I'm also waiting for some polyurethane to make up new wipers for the tail stock on this machine. And once again, I've been waiting nearly 2 months for that material to arrive. So yeah, getting very frustrating at the moment. Waiting for stuff in the post to try and get things finished out. But yeah, just wondering. Just leave a comment below and just let me know if you're finding postage very slow at the moment. All right, well, let's get on with this repair that I did. And as I said in my last video, I couldn't find anything on the internet showing me how to repair an armoured cable. So this is the way I've come up with it. It's probably 9 ways to skin a cat, but this is the one I've chosen anyway. So see what you think. All right, guys, and see you soon. Alright, let's have a look at this damaged armoured cable that I've created on this Sino reed head unit. Now, I'll flick it around, you can see how it's crushed in. So it's crushed in and it's elongated out. We've actually created a fair bit of deformation on one of those rings as well. Now, ideally, what I would have liked to have done was to get a pair of pliers and pinch on that, try and get the diameter down the same. But looking the way that has crushed in, I'm sure that is going to impinge in the other way and actually run up hard against the cable inside there, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to try and pinch that actual cable. So the armour casing on the outside here protects that cable inside. So I've measured the diameter where it has been upset, and it measures up at about 8.3 millimeters, and the cable itself is measuring up at around about 7.9 millimeters, so almost half a millimeter in difference in the diameters. I'm going to use araldite to actually encase this with, but I need some sort of a clamshell, if you like, to go over the outside of it. And I want to make sure that araldite is going to be contained and fill the entire void inside there. So if I do make that a clearance fit on that slightly, it's going to be quite gappy at the ends there, and I think the araldite would tend to run out. So what I'm going to do, well, I'm going to try something here anyway. I've got an O-ring here. Now obviously I can't fit that O-ring over this, so I'm going to have to cut the O-ring, fit it over, and then super glue it back together. I'm going to fit 2 on either side to create, if you like, a dam that I can then put a clamshell, which is going to seal on the outside of that O-ring, and the cavity in there, hopefully, is going to be full of araldite, and that's going to lock up that entire assembly. Now the way this armour railing or armour cable does work, it does slide quite freely on the cable itself, but I want to lock it inside there. Unfortunately, we're up nice and close to the reed head, and this is going to be captured or locked down on the actual saddle itself. So this part of the cable won't be able to move. So all I'm really doing here is giving it some protection from chips. So it is going to be underneath the reed, underneath the skull, so it's not going to be impinged by coolant or chips, but I just want to make it a little bit more robust than leaving it all gappy and open like that. Alright, well I'm going to cut this O-ring, or 2 O-rings, fit them over, and we'll super glue the ends together, and we'll see how our diameters work out from that, and we can start looking at this clamshell that we're going to make up, and that clamshell is going to be out of stainless steel. Alright, we'll see how we go with the camera in place. I may need to move it. It's a little bit awkward where it is at the moment, but we'll give this a go. So this is the way we do make up O-rings, and it is quite effective, is that we can cut a length of material super glue the two ends together to create a new O-ring. So you can see it's split there. Let's see how that's going to fit. I'm actually going to fit this into the grooves of that armour rail, and we'll see how that's going to look. As I said, my fat fingers are going to struggle with this. There we go. You can pinch that together and create a new O-ring. Alright, I'm going to try and bring you guys along for this ride. I was going to use a pair of pliers to pinch that together, but it's much easier with my fingers. Alright, so the trick is not to apply the super glue out of the bottle. Just put a little dab, and I find the bottle cap off a beer is one of the better ways to do this. So just a small drop's all we need. We use a needle to then apply it into location. So we just wipe it on. Try and get it where we want it anyway. Now, super glue does give you a bit of working time while it's apart. It's when it goes together that you're in strife. So I'm just going to pinch that together. Just try and hold that for about 30 seconds. I'll let that go. Alright. It's very hard to pick up in the camera. That is a perfect joint. So I'm happy with that. And if you notice too, it's actually followed the shape of the cabling as well. Alright, I'll get the one on this side using that same method, and then we can start looking at making up our little clamshell that we're going to be encasing this with. Alright, yes, we've had a change in plan, guys. I did hook these up and they're an absolute perfect match with the super glue, but this is actually a spiral wound, and it was humping up over where it crossed over. So what I've done is just super glued the ends down to follow the spiral around on both of these. What that's going to do for us too is when we put the sleeve over the top of this, it's going to help centralize it and keep it nice and round, if you like, where we're going to join the two halves together. So yeah, a little bit of a change in plans, but not too bad anyway. Alright, I'm going to make up this clamshell sleeve. ID's 9.2, which is 23/64, so just shy of that anyway. We'll do the OD at 10.5 and we'll make the length 27. So look, I've laid this back into place, the reed head, to make sure that this isn't going to be an issue for us, that length, and it's not. So I'm going to head on over to the lathe and we'll start turning it up. We'll see how we progress. Alright, I've got a bit of 316 stainless steel that a good mate of mine gave me a full length of this actually. This is a turn down end that I've just cut off. I think it's about 3/4 of an inch in diameter. So thanks Oki, we're going to put this to the use, mate. Alright, I'm going to machine the centre because I need to redo the centre because we need to make sure we're dead true when we're going through with that drill, and we'll get the ODs organised. Well, I've drilled that through with a 9mm drill. I can open that up to the 23/64 that I've got if I need to, but drills do tend to drill a little bit oversized. We'll see how that pans out once it's cooled down. And I'll machine the OD to size once that's cooled down as well. Righto, we'll let that cool down. I'll clean that out with the 23/64 drill. And then we're going to machine half of that away. Then we're going to set up and do another one and machine halfway to create 2 even half circles. Alright, it's going to be a long day in the shop, I think. I was concerned with the end mill coming across here. It was starting to deform it slightly, so I'm going to go for a slitting saw. When I've come down to 0 it, I've hit the bottom on here and totally deformed the thing. So we're going to have another go at this. I'll set up another bit of stock and we'll come back to where we are right now and we'll give it another go. Alright, so we've got that turned up back to where we were before. I've actually put some blue on and marked a cut line down through here. So I'm going to try and do this by hand with a hacksaw with a fine blade and then come back to the line with a file. And I'll let you know how I go. Alright, so I've cut that with a fine saw and I've filed that back and we've hit the line bang on, and 5.63 was our halfway mark that we were looking for. And that's what we've come back with. So I'm going to cut this off and prep the ends up, and we'll do the same thing again for the second half. And hopefully it's going to work. Righto, so there's our 2 halves, and they've come up really, really well. Very happy with that. Dead smack on the split line. So we're going to pop these into a collet as they are, and I'm hoping the collet's going to be able to pull that up nicely, keep them central and concentric, and then I'll give them a face back to length and we'll put some connectors on. Alright. It just takes a little bit of pressure to get them together with the O-ring resistance, but that is perfect. And the O-rings actually centralise that quite nicely as well. It would have been nice to have no gap in there, but because we did upset that that cable quite a bit, I've just got it just missing on the outside of that. So it's probably the best we're going to be able to get. Now I was going to be filling this up with araldite, but I'm not now. I'm actually going to use some silicon. Now silicon is a great bonding glue as well as a sealant in its own right. And if you put silicon on glass or tiles or wood and stick them together, I can tell you now it is extremely difficult to get that apart. So we're going to use silicon in here just where the 2 faces meet. Once again, I'll use a little bit of super glue on that, and then we'll just use a little tiny parallel clamp just to hold that together. And it's going to take a number of days for that silicon to go off, but I think that's the best way to go. So that's the plan. Let's see how we go. Right, so we're just going to apply some of the silicon fairly liberally. I'm just going to put a little tiny skim of super glue on this. Trying to get it on my fingers. Trying to stick my fingers together. Sorry about blocking the camera out here, but I want to make sure we get this right. That felt good going around that. I'm going to hold this for a good 30 seconds while it does go off, and I'll get this little parallel clamp on. Alright, there we go. Alright, I'm very happy with that. We'll let this, I'm just being yelled to come inside. We'll see how we look. Grand final's about to start for football for the AFL, so my son's just screaming out to come inside. So I'm going to let that set now. This stuff is going to have to take at least 3-4 days for the silicone to go off properly. So I'm not going to touch it for that amount of time. Hopefully by then I've got my my power track, my chain, drag chain coming in by then, and we can start getting these cables laid out and get this laid up and going. Alright guys, well, that's our repair complete, and I'm very, very happy with that. That's going to give us good mechanical protection, and it's also going to give us good coolant protection as well. It's worked out very, very neat. Alright, I'm going to mount this up, and we'll see how that looks. And as I said, this cable is going to be anchored back so that it locks this in place. It won't be moving at all. Alright, let's have a look at the final result. So we've got this in place now. That's our repair completed. That's going to be a very robust arrangement. It's going to give good mechanical protection. That cavity is full of silicone, so I wouldn't expect to see coolant getting anywhere near where the break was. I've pinned it off and captured it with a little clip here, and I'll put a further clip down here to keep that in place, but I won't do that until I've got the drag chain in place. Checked it all out, and everything reads perfectly off the dial indicator, so from where I was to where I am now, very, very happy. Would have been nice to not have it happen, but I think we've come up with a fairly robust solution. Alright guys, next job I've got on the agenda is to do the, I think it's going to be the new change wheels for the quadrant plate on the lathe. So I'm missing a couple of those, so we'll get that on the go next.